seriousness in a long time. I know it was a pretty big game last year, but I think we could one-up that this is the biggest South Carolina-Vanderbilt game maybe ever in terms of how both teams have started.
I like it. You're trending my direction. This is what I like to talk about. I love to label things as the biggest game ever. Maybe it's the biggest game in program history ever. Biggest game of Shane Beamer's career to this point ever. Has Shane Beamer ever had a top 11 team playing against Vanderbilt? No.
Oh.
It's never happened before, right?
It has not.
Has Shane ever had a chance to take a team to 1-0 in the SEC, rising up the ranks? No. It's never happened. This is huge. I mean, we don't have to hype this up or gas it or do anything like that because the facts are there. It's a big game coming up Saturday.
Yeah, it is a massive game, and Vanderbilt is no joke. Well, I mean, and tomorrow we'll really hammer home a lot about Vanderbilt specifically, but right now there's a lot of trying to fix a couple things on offense. I think we feel pretty good about where the defense is, feel pretty good about where special teams is right now, thanks to Vakari Swain having maybe the best start to a season of anybody in college football right now, returning 3 punts for a touchdown. But Vanderbilt is coming in this game feeling pretty good about themselves, and they felt pretty good about themselves all offseason. I think they felt pretty good about themselves the millisecond that Diego Pavia was cleared to play for an extra year. I think they probably feel better about themselves than Vanderbilt football, a program that has been perpetually the worst team in the SEC, or the free space on the SEC football bingo card, actually walk into Williams-Brice with a little bit of swagger. Not a little bit, a lot of bit of swagger.
Yeah, and that's why you make this game. That's why this game turns into the narrative of, are they the same old Vandy or we're not the same old Vandy? And that's the question that these two teams were going to have to answer by the end of the game on Saturday night. Same old Vandy that we've beaten 16 times in a row, or is this a different Vandy who's coming here with a different attitude, new way to approach the game? So that's the narrative. Is it the same old Vandy or a new Vandy? And that's the question.
That's right, and that's one that's going to be answered, because if you're Vandy, this is an incredible test to go on the road against a top 11 team and have to prove your worth to show that, hey, what happened last year with them winning 6 games isn't a flash in the pan. It's not a fluke, but something they genuinely believe they can build upon. Now for South Carolina, how are they walking into this game? First, we can address the injury situation, because after the game on Saturday night, Shane Beamer just said it's not good. He kept it pretty simple, pretty vague. He said it's not good. Well, he addressed the injuries in the opening statement of his press conference yesterday.
On the injury front, we're trending in the right direction. Obviously, it's an SEC game, so we'll have to release an injury update as the week goes, and we'll do that then. So I'm not going to talk about injuries today other than just to say we're trending in the right direction, and we'll release the report like we do every week for SEC games when the time comes.
So he wasn't going to address any questions about injuries, but he said they're in the right direction, and we'll find out when the first injury report comes out, which should be here pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll see what that says. We'll see what it looks like. I don't know what trending in the right direction means, because
it's vague.
Where could you be trending from?
Right.
If the question.
If the situation was dire and one player has gotten better and cleared, then you are trending, technically speaking, in the right direction.
Yeah, there's that. Also, there's this idea like, okay, my ankle was broken. Now I have a cast on it. That's going in the right direction too, right?
It's surgically repaired.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't put in too much stock in that. I understand that they're going to put out the report today. So we'll see. That'll come on after the show, I believe, so we won't have any breaking news. But we'll see what that means. But, okay, I'll take it for what he said.
And, of course, defensively, I think if you were to win this game, you're going to need some of the guys who left the game early in Game 1 and Game 2 to play. I think you're going to need Brandon Cisse to win this game. I think you're going to need Jalen Kilgore to win this game. We'll see where Judge Collier is. I mean, a sprained knee is pretty hard to come back from quickly. But if he plays, then that obviously makes me feel better about South Carolina's chances of taking care of business. And based off of how JT Gear played in that first game, I'd love to see him play. Yeah. I think you might need him as well, even though Brian Thomas Jr. has excelled on the other side of the defensive line opposite of Dylan Stewart. But outside of injuries, which of course we can just put a pin in and come back to later once the first report comes out, and then we can start watching that bad boy like a hawk leading up into the Vanderbilt game. The offense has kind of taken control of the discourse, right? Because they did struggle to score in that first half against South Carolina State. Only 3 offensive points and 3 3-and-outs to start the game. You had 1 3-and-out in the second half, which is a grand total of 4 of them in the South Carolina State game. He discussed at least the issues with the running game yesterday.
I wouldn't say there's one glaring issue. I think it's a host of things, David. We don't seek comfort right here around here by making excuses, but Virginia Tech game, it's a good defense, and that's a tough preparation because you didn't quite know what to expect. South Carolina State, we're starting a true freshman. We had bad field position. So those are things that I don't want to, completely just push aside and say that they weren't a factor, because those are factors. Having said that, we have to overcome that, and I wouldn't say there's one glaring thing. We've been close. We haven't been consistent enough. Yeah, sometimes it's in different positions. It may be a guy getting beat, which is going to happen at times. And, this week, hopefully we'll start the same 5 on the offensive line health-wise, and we weren't able to do that from week 1 to week 2, but confident that we'll be better this week. And today in practice, we got off to a great start.
So you hear that, Preston Thorne, about what he's kind of attributing some of the run game issues with, and what does that make you think?
First thing is that Shane has earned the benefit of the doubt from me, and I think from the fan base. He's earned the benefit of the doubt with his performance last year, with the performances that we've seen. So when he says things like that, whereas me, I tend to be skeptical, I'm retraining myself to say, okay, cool, you've shown that your system and everything works. That being said, taking him for his word, it's not encouraging to me if you have little breakdowns happening everywhere. If you have the way I think about it, if you have a car and one time it's the timing belt, but then the next time it's the brakes, and then the next time it's the engine, that's called a bad car.
And then it's expensive.
Yes, that's called.
It's really expensive.
If you have a car and you know that the AC keeps going out, well, at least I know I can fix that.
Right.
But if it's something different every time you take it to the mechanic, that is an issue. And so I'm not encouraged, or I think that was maybe meant to be encouraging, saying like it's not one specific thing. To me, that's not encouraging, because I need to know where to focus the resources to get things fixed. But if it's, if
you're playing whack-a-mole with problems,
yeah, exactly.
It can be a little difficult.
That's a tough situation. So again, Shane's earned the benefit of the doubt, but to me, that particular diagnosis is not very encouraging.
Yeah, I certainly agree that he deserves that benefit of the doubt, and I definitely believe him when it goes to that Virginia Tech game plan, because that's one thing I was adamant on, is what makes that Virginia Tech game tricky is because you have no idea what they were going to do, right? A new coordinator, almost a completely new defensive front for Virginia Tech. I mean, all of those guys were basically transfers. The only thing you really knew about Virginia Tech is that they had a couple dudes at linebacker that were really good. But you didn't know what system they were going to play in, what type of defensive looks they were going to give you. That one I understand a whole lot, right? And that's why I asked him that in the lead up to the Virginia Tech game, is what made that preparation so challenging. Because it just on its surface, when you saw all that change, you knew that one was going to be really difficult. The one thing that I get a little hesitant about, and I believe in Shed Surratt, because I mean he's got incredible size. Not many true freshman offensive linemen in the SEC already come in with SEC size, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes you got to put that on.
Right, you can't look at that line and pick the freshman. You would never know that he's the freshman. He's not the mark on that offensive line, just from size wise.
Yes. But I firmly believe there still will be some growing pains at that position right there, too, because you don't – usually, I think my rule of thumb is by the time November rolls around, you are no longer a true freshman.
I like that.
Especially if you are starting. Then I might even move that up to mid-October. You are no longer a true freshman. But he made his first career start against South Carolina State. It's a big ask for somebody to fix a couple of things if he didn't have the game that you're expecting him to have later on in his career, because I firmly believe he's going to have a really good career as a South Carolina Gamecock and is going to be a big help. That was a big get whenever you got him as a recruit. But to ask it to be significantly better from week 2 to week 3 is big. Not saying it's insurmountable or impossible, but you're still a true freshman, and you'll be making your first career SEC start. If there's things that you could look at to still be like, ooh, that's something to watch, it's something that may be a concern, it could be that right there, because the growing pains will happen for at least a month and a half. We'll go to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Joe is on the line with us right now. Joe, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Hey, good morning, fellas. So listen, Preston and Elijah, I've been thinking, and the way I've been thinking about the way our offense has looked. You guys remember the first drive against Virginia Tech? How we just went straight down the field on the drive.
Oh yeah, methodically.
Yeah, I haven't seen us go to the tight end since that first game. Maybe once, I'm not sure. Then we threw the deep ball in the first game against Virginia Tech. We saw the deep ball once the other night. Okay. My thing is, preseason we talked about all of these new toys we have, and we have this housing campus. At some point, he's going to have to unleash our quarterback. At some point, we haven't seen none of the RPOs. We haven't seen a lot of the quick screens. There's a lot of things that we have not seen. Now, is that because of the offensive line, or is that because he just wants to keep it vanilla until we get into the SEC? I don't know. But if I'm thinking about this, I know Vanderbilt has to be thinking about it. You know, because that first drive that we had against Virginia Tech, man, it was scripted up perfect. And it's like, I don't know, like he was in there beating his head, but I haven't seen that since that first drive. So I truly believe that he's holding back on something. He has to. He has to. I would like to hear you guys comment on that, man. Great show as usual, fellas. I hope that you all have a great day, man.
Yeah, you too, Joe.
Appreciate it, Joe.
Appreciate the call as always. I think is that I'll address the tight end thing right now. He does have a point. The tight end's got one target against South Carolina State. I think the South Carolina State thing is also trying to figure out what you have at receiver too. And again, you only threw the ball 19 times, right? You probably figured you didn't have to throw the ball a lot against South Carolina State to be able to move effectively up and down the field. And when you go back to that Virginia Tech game, you had Maurice Brown had a catch, Brady Hunt had a catch. I think those were the 2 catches on that first drive, which I believe was 12 plays long. But that first drive also had a lot of RPO, a lot of quick hitting stuff, and that's kind of what we talked about a little bit yesterday, touched on a little bit yesterday about what I think this offense does best on early downs is making those short passes. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to say that you see more of that on Saturday because it worked.
Yeah, you talked about substituting the short pass for the run game, especially early if the offensive line is having trouble communicating or blocking or moving men. Let's get out in space and do some things with those new toys that Joe talked about. Yeah, that makes plenty of sense all around.
You mentioned some communication problems on the offensive line, something we hypothesized as something that could be an issue based off what we saw on a couple plays in the Virginia Tech game. Kason Henry spoke yesterday, and I think he confirmed some of our priors. And to Kason's credit, he was very upfront and honest about some of those issues. We'll hear from Kason Henry next about what some of those are here on the early game.
Press here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, it's no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with your insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out to you and take care of the job for you. Now, if you're at home looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors. Absolute Glass can take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. You say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
No accidents to report at this time. It looks like a good morning out on the highways. We hope it stays that way today. And as far as forecast goes, 82 for the high, overnight low of 60. And tomorrow, looking for a high of 85, as well as on Friday. Game day, we're looking for sunny skies as well, a high of 84. But starting off your morning, a little bit breezy, 59 on 107.5 The Game.
Back to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Our man Marv is on the line. Want to talk some offensive line. Good morning, Marv. Welcome to the early game.
Hey, good morning, guys. I was reading a 247 article about Tree Bob Olave yesterday, and Shane says that he's healthy and he's an important part of the team, yet he didn't play when 12 other linemen played on Saturday. And I'm trying to figure out what the disconnect is. Is this coaching or is this the player? And I'll hang up and listen. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you for your call, Marv. That's a really good question.
I think that's a fair question.
Makes you wonder.
Interesting observation, and I think you would need to use your inferencing skills. This is with no prior information on my part, but if somebody's talking about he's healthy, one, and then you talk about somebody being an important part of the team that hasn't played,
it should tell you.
I feel like there's some
other players
information.
are playing.
I feel like there's some information to glean there. And this is me. I have no information because, Marv, I'm curious about the same thing.
Yeah, because, I mean, this is year 3 for Tree in this program. He got pretty much a full season of playing his true freshman season, even when the coaching staff might have previously thought he wasn't deemed ready to play. You know, he played because he had to in 2023, redshirted last year. But in the one game that he did come in and impact was when Josiah Thompson got hurt against Vanderbilt, ironically enough, came into that game, and I thought played really well. So it does. I mean, I am genuinely curious as to what that disconnect may be, especially considering you're trying to find the right 5 guys to put out there, the combination of the right 5 guys to get out there and play once we get into the SEC slate. The offensive line's had its fair share of struggles. And I think one thing that we've kind of hypothesized was that it stems from communication because of how successful Virginia Tech was on just stunning, twisting, doing a lot of the fancy stuff that requires communication. Virginia Tech was pretty successful when it came to that. Well, Casey Henry spoke yesterday, and he was pretty honest about some of the communication struggles this offensive line has had so far this season. This is Cut 19. This is Casey Henry talking about that communication on the offense.
I think that, you know, to be an effective offensive line, you just play 5 as 1. Any level of football, that's true. I think communication is probably our biggest thing right now. From Lenoris to Boaz and Boaz out. There were like 6 or 7 times that I saw in the game where we weren't really getting the calls, you know what I mean? And it was like, I would have to ask, you know, it's loud, you know what I mean? Like sometimes the band's really loud and all this stuff. You can't really hear that much, but, you know, we really need to be on the same page, especially at home when we're not in a away atmosphere. But I think that today, especially, we worked on communication a lot. Lonnie's got a great game plan coming together to let us play downhill and not have to think as much. I think we're going to do really well on Saturday with communication and everything else.
And then he elaborated a little further on making sure he gets the play call correct, even in a loud stadium like Willie B.
Basically, I just walk up to Lenoris. I'm like, what's the play? You know what I mean? Like, I kind of just like because, you know, you have to get the play. You know what I mean? Because there's like, you can't just go out there and just do your own thing. You know, that's not how college ball works or any level. But there's been some times, especially last year, where we're in, you know, Bryant-Denny Stadium and I can't hear anything. Or we're in Clemson and I can't hear anything. I can barely hear the snap count. So we're getting a play and Lenoir's trying to go fast. He's saying it fast. I'm like, I don't think I heard that right. So I got to stop. Be like, hey, stop. What's the play? Ask Tro next to me. Tro's reliable. Boaz is reliable, guys like that. So, especially last year with Torselli and Vershawn, all those guys, we were on the same page frequently. But, yeah, just stop, calm down, get the play, and then roll.
So, Preston Thorne, you hear that from Kaysen, and what does that make you think about what the offensive line's been doing?
What you say, Elijah? I can't hear you.
Trying to sign it.
Can't hear you. Yeah, that is absolutely a fact. Yeah, the stadiums get loud. It's the SEC. Welcome. Problem is, Atlanta, I mean, all due respect, it's not reaching the levels that it's going to be in Willie B on Saturday, even on being on the good guys' side. And Willie B was not performing to maximum capacity on Saturday because of all the varying factors.
We graded it on a curve.
Yeah,
yes.
It was awesome for the environment. So, yes, that is something that they're going to have to either somebody's going to have to speak louder, speak clearer, or speak shorter. So maybe the sentences don't need to be as long as we. And also, hey, we don't need to disguise the play. We don't need any code. Zone left. You. It's more important for me to know the play than to try and hide the play from the other team. So telling the play, getting everybody on the same communicate page is a huge part of communication, and he's right. Yes, offensive lines have to play as a unit. And if you don't know what's happening, that makes it very difficult.
Yeah, and that is, pretty jarring to hear that. Like I feel like that's a fundamental thing
100%.
that we have to be on the same page as to what the play call is.
He said something at the very end that I thought was very interesting, though. He said last year with Torricelli, NFL guy, and Rashawn Lee, check his birth certificate, right? Those dudes were veterans who probably made sure that everybody had the call.
Yep.
Boaz has been around, he's played for a long time, but he hasn't been in this system for a long time. And I don't know if he has the confidence, the moxie, whatever, to make sure everybody's getting the call. Lenoir, same deal. Last year, he probably could coast a little bit because Rashawn handled a lot of that. Now, Lenoir probably has to handle a lot of that. And also, guess what? We got a new coordinator, too. Is he getting the calls in on time? Is he getting them in the right space so that Lenoir can relay those calls? He said it. Lenoir to Boaz to everyone else. But ahead of Lenoir is the OC. So the OC has to give it to Lenoir. Lenoir has to give it to Boaz. Boaz has to give it to everybody else across the line. There's 80,000 people screaming. Somebody's 6'5", 300 pounds, breathing fire, ready to come at you. Yes, it is a difficult situation, but it should be handled.
It should be handled. And here's the extra challenge, too. What if you recognize something before the snap? That's another thing that is a really vital part. And that's one thing, that's what I followed up with on Case and Henry was what is that in-play communication like or pre-snap communication like if you're able to recognize something? Here was his response.
We our kind of philosophy is called RCE, which is recognize, communicate, and execute. So when we see stunts or anything, we get a stunt cue. We get linebackers, different depths, anything we see like that, like a different technique or anything like that, or an even front that might tell us these guys are going to twist or whatever. There's a lot that goes into that, but we're supposed to recognize it, communicate it with the guys, especially if I'm getting like a nickel off the edge. We got to go communicate that to all my other guys. We got to make a call and we got to execute. You know what I mean? So even in within the play, you make a go call if you're getting a T stunt or whatever. You're on the man side. There's a bunch of stuff that goes into inner play communication. But the only thing that you can do to practice that is to rep it. You know what I mean? You have to do it in practice. You have to go over and over. You have to mess up. You have to fix it. You know what I mean? It takes a long time. That's why preseason's so long. That's why we practice so hard. Is because offensive line is such a hard position to play.
I could see the football lover in Preston Thorne get a little tingly,
Talk dirty to me, Casey.
He
Talking
is.
tight ends, nickels coming off the edge. Ooh.
And that communication has to go down
too
the
early
line of
for that,
scrimmage.
Casey.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But and that's one thing, too, that I'm glad he shed that insight on as to what also has to happen. It's one thing to just get the play in. Getting the play in and make sure everybody understands the play should be the free space on the bingo card, because then you also have to deal with that, which sounds like a lot. Recognize, communicate, and execute.
Yeah, that's a great acronym. I will be stealing that for sure, because there are three distinct parts of that. You have to see it coming, but seeing it coming is not good as telling everybody else it's coming. And then once we all know it's coming, we still have to block it.
Yes.
So those are three distinct things that are happening in and during the play, and that's why we always talk about how intricate O-line is. That being said, it must get done.
Yeah, it must be done effectively. And that's why football's not only just a game of inches, but a game of syllables at times too. And we're going to break that down for this week's Game of Inches. That and a lot more on the close, fine margins of what define football games in the fall. That's coming up next here on the Early Game.
All right, y'all, football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. And playing on Underdog is easy. You just pick whether your favorite player will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. This week, I'm looking at our own Debo to go over 4.5 rushing yards in the game on Thursday. That's a lock. That's easy. Debo over 4.5 yards. Download the app today. Sign up with promo code EARLYGAME to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code EARLYGAME. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in South Carolina. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Looking good. No accidents. We don't appear to have any major slowdowns right now. So we're going to welcome that and hope it stays that way. We want the middle of your week to be a good one. And as far as your forecast goes, 82 today, 85 tomorrow, 85 on Friday. Game day looking like it's going to be sunny and 84 with an overnight low of 59. So certainly welcoming that as well. It is still kind of windy out there. Not a good hair day. 59 on 107.5 The Game.
If there's anything you can learn from the movie Any Given Sunday, it's that football, it's a game of inches. And every week in football, at any level, we are provided with countless examples as to how football can be a game of inches and a game of violent real estate acquisition can be won or lost within some incredibly thin margins.
The margins are razor thin. If you just look at any of the plays that happened this past weekend, whether it's the returns, the touchdowns, the not touchdowns, all those things, the field goals, all those things, wind blows a split second the other way, butterfly flaps his wings somewhere else. Who knows how this goes down? So, yes, that's one of the things I always love about watching football games because it can change on a dime, and also it can be very thin as far as the difference between winning and losing.
And as we just heard in that last segment from Case and Henry, sometimes it's a game of syllables, and sometimes just the ability to hear your quarterback or hear somebody else on the offensive line in terms of what the play is, something I think is vital information for all 11 players on an offensive unit, can end up being a challenge. He mentioned playing at Bryant-Denny Stadium last year. Hard to hear, hard to be able to get that message out to what the play is. He mentioned at Clemson, couldn't hear the snap count. There's so much that goes into it that doesn't even account for the physical act of playing football that can be an absolute drive killer. Because if you can't hear the snap count and you just move, that's a false start. You lose 5 yards right there. You lose yards, you lose real estate by not even playing the actual game. And that when hearing Kaysen talk about that yesterday, that kind of immediately made me think, well, football, game of inches also just a game of syllables in terms of trying to communicate, make sure everybody knows what is going on before we even get to the snapping of football.
Yeah, that's why you have all different types of communication systems. When we had Nick in here, he talked about his offensive line, had the restaurant package, was Arby's was A-gap, Burger King was B-gap, and C was cookout, whatever. That's something that was quick, something that they could know real quick. I remember way back when I was playing, they had the offense would have any baseball teams would be this, any football teams would be this. So like, you might say it was Braves, and that means one thing. Whereas if you think that it's, and if you hear Bengals, somebody on the defense might be saying, okay, those are B words.
B words, yeah.
But it's not. It's baseball, one's a zone, one's an outside zone, or whatever the case is. It doesn't matter as long as you and I know what we're talking about.
Exactly. That's the most important part, right?
And even furthermore, it really doesn't matter even if they know. We just have to know what we're doing. So it's not about trying to be in slick or trying to come up with some fancy code. Can it be clear? Can it be short? And can we say this? Because I've been in Willie B, Death Valley, the real Death Valley, and you could literally be next to a person, see their mouths moving, and not hear what they're saying.
I hear your lies, your lips are moving. Oh my gosh.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's something along those lines. You could just see somebody talking, and it's literally like,
it's like being at the club.
What?
Hey, you want a water? You say water?
I'm not your daughter. What? Right? Yes.
It's amplified in a football stadium. We were down on the field and there's 80,000+ people yelling.
And then with your luck, it'll be like the player last week where he walked past an open mic ref and used the obscenity.
Exactly.
And then everybody hears that. That was communicated loud and clear.
That was my favorite clip of the week. I should have put him as a winner because that was my favorite clip of the week last week. Yes, communication is a thing. And guess what? It's going to be loud on Saturday. It should be.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
That's what we want it to be. So we want it to be an advantage, right? We want it to be an advantage, not something that can hurt you throughout the course of the game. Keeping it at the South Carolina State game, I think we probably think a little bit differently of the offense if just a couple of throws from Lenore Sellers are completed. He completed 11 of his 19 passes, but we probably could have gotten 12 or 13. And not because they were drops, because I think they might have been a little high. I think there were a couple plays. There's one corner route of Nick Harbor going to the sideline. He breaks that corner off that route really well. Ball's just a smidge high, right? I think that was, in terms of maybe what could have helped the offense at least advance the ball a little bit more, is if some of those balls are a little bit lower, a little bit more within the catch radius of Nick Harbor. And I think, and sometimes, I mean, I'm not a quarterback guru, maybe a footwork thing, but it's amazing that even if your feet are off just a little bit, the placement of that ball can end up being a world of difference.
Yeah, that's all fundamentals. That's all footwork. That's all the stuff that they work out as a quarterback. Now, here's the only issue with what you just said. If it's high for Nick Harbor,
it's high. Right.
It's going to be difficult for anybody else to be able to catch
Nick
up because he's 6'5" and he has a tremendous wingspan. So if it's high for him, it's probably going to be high for a lot of folks. But yes, the ball adjusted a little bit, changes the dynamics of the game.
And then another thing that I wrote from the world of college football this week, too. That Baylor SMU game was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
That was a whole lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the scoring doesn't get started if it's not for a tipped pass on the first possession of the game for SMU, where Kevin Jennings throws a bomb down the field. The Baylor cornerback played it tremendously, but can't corral the ball. I mean, he's got the ball in his hands, can't corral it. He tips it up, falls in the lap of a SMU player, and bam, you have a 75-yard touchdown on the first drive of the game. And ultimately ended up setting the tone for a game that ended up involving both teams going north of 40 points. But that was one of those plays where I immediately had to write that down and say it's game of inches. If maybe your hand is like another inch higher, you were catching that ball and picking it off instead of just tipping it. And that's one of the things, too. Like when the elements of football that is a game of inches thing is whether or not you tip the ball versus catching the ball. Because tipping the ball keeps it alive. Catching it is a turnover. And sometimes the difference between a tipped pass and a intercepted pass, inches, mere inches.
We saw it up at the with the folks upstate coming out of the end zone against Troy. Cade drops back, throws a pass, barely grazes the lineman's hand. He catches it by some act of God, bumble, stumbles into the end zone, and all of a sudden everybody up there is panicking because they're down 16-0, I think, or whatever the case was. And yeah, there's a scenario where he just tips the ball, it hits the ground, and then Clemson drives out. There's also a scenario where he doesn't get up and he doesn't tip it. The ball is completed, and now they're out of the deep red and they're moving forward. And all of those things are distinct possibilities of what could happen just based on things moving forward. All that being said, somehow or another, the good teams always get the bounces.
They do.
I don't know how that works.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Seems like
last year.
The good teams just always get the bounces, and when you're a bad team, you don't get the bounce. It's just how it goes.
I'm just going to attribute it to devil magic.
It's whatever it is.
Somebody was sacrificed in that locker room. And this year, that team might be the Buffalo Bills, because in that fantastic 41-40 win on Sunday night, that game-winning field goal was, if you're looking on the stream, that close to being blocked because the Ravens got a beat on it. Whoever was off that edge got a beat on it, got the hands up, and it missed his hands, not by much. Special teams specifically is a game of inches and milliseconds because they clock the entire operation from snap to hold, right?
Snap, hold, kick.
Snap, yeah, they time the entire operation.
And it's broken down in its part. The snap needs to get here by this time. The hold needs to get here this time. The approach needs to get this time. All of that stuff is all segmented into, like you said, milliseconds.
Yes, because like the goal sometimes is a second or less, I believe it is. I remember talking to Paxton Brooks, who played at Tennessee. I was talking about that Tennessee-Alabama game where Tennessee kicked a game-winning field goal, and it got partially blocked. And he goes, our operation was like 0.7 or something like that. Best operation they ever had, it still almost got blocked. If that was a millisecond later, that kick is blocked and they're playing in overtime, right? That was one of the best games of the 2022 season. We might think of it a lot differently if it wasn't for just a matter of milliseconds. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion on the Gamecock offense coming into this week. Now, I love having carpet in my house, but the only time I don't is if I step on something that feels gummy and matted down. I mean, there's many ways you can describe carpet. If you describe it as gummy and matted down, it's pretty gross, and I don't want to walk on that with my bare feet. But Zerorez is here to make sure that it's not that way, and they can take care of what your carpet looks and feels like for you because of their patented cleaning process that uses no harsh chemicals, and it's a clean that's safe for your family and your furry loved ones. Everybody wants that. And this month, the more you clean, the more you can save, and we all want to save around here. 3 rooms for $119, 4 for $144, and 5 for just $169. Save up to $30 and schedule a Zerorez today, and do so by going online at ZerorezColumbia.com. And remember, Zerorez, like zero residue, spell it backwards or forwards, it's the right way to clean. Talking Gamecock offense, Gamecock football, as we roll into a massive game in the SEC opener against the Vanderbilt Commodores. 803-404-6100. That's our AAA heating and air phone line. And Steve has been patiently waiting. Steve, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Good. I want to say for the last 10 years, as a Gamecock fan, we had two issues and they're still there, and that's offensive coordinator Roper, Satterfield, Dale Logan, and the offensive line has. Those two positions has been a question mark every year. And I just don't understand why we can't just fix that and really go and get an OC instead of hiring inside. Go out and get a substantial OC to come in, because I remember like last 10 years, offensive line has been a major issue. And then to say that the crowd noise and the communication, don't they practice noise in practice? I mean, that's what I thought they did. I don't understand it. And I would feel terrible if Vanderbilt come here and beat us. I really would feel terrible. So I just want to listen up air and see what you guys got to say.
Yeah, thank you for your call, Steve. I'll address the offensive coordinator thing first. I'm just going to read off Mike Shula's resume coaching, and let's pretend that he was not here last year. Starting with his first coordinator job, Tampa Buccaneers offensive coordinator, 96-99. Dolphins quarterback coach, 2000-2002. Alabama head coach, 2003-2006. Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback coach, 2007-2010. Carolina Panthers QB coach, 2011 and 2012. Carolina Panthers offensive coordinator, 2013-2017. New York Giants offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, 18 and 19. Denver Broncos quarterbacks coach, 2020-2021. Buffalo Bills senior offensive assistant from 22 and 23. And then he comes to South Carolina. But if you eliminate the South Carolina part and just say that's somebody that you were looking to fill your offensive coordinator void, Preston, would you say that would be a resume that would qualify you as an offensive coordinator at the SEC level?
Depends on how much I value the NFL. I personally don't value the NFL very much when it comes to college, but Shane does. Shane has eyes for the NFL. Whenever you hear him, he always talks about the pro system, and that's how Dal Loggins got in the game. And so for me personally, that's cool that you did that in the league, but this is a different beast to me.
It is different, yeah.
But Shane values the NFL, and there is absolutely value in those things. So I guess it depends on where you place your value. For me, not necessarily, but I think Shane does, and that's fine. But I just think it's two different value systems.
I would accept it because of the quarterback position, the quarterback coaching position.
Fair.
And because of what you have in the room right now, right? You have maybe the most talented quarterback in the history of this program. You need to capitalize on it. So I didn't mind bringing up Mike Shula. Mm-hmm. And now it helps, I think, that he was here last year. I think we might start seeing more from a play calling diversity standpoint. I wasn't going to expect to see a lot against South Carolina State in that regard, right? Some of your best stuff, I don't think you're going to play against South Carolina State because you should be able to move the ball efficiently without it, right? I think we can really start judging Mike Shula starting Saturday. And once we are firmly into SEC play. Now, if the offense is if we're still talking about the same things that we've been talking about this week in late October, and you have lost a few games because of it, then I think that conversation can be had. But I still see an avenue where this can be turned around. And now for the offensive line, yeah, I share Steve's concern about the communication. Because not only do you practice it, that's something that has to be hammered home before second, third week of camp, right? I mean, if you can't communicate what the play is, you're not going to run it effectively because you don't know it, right? The communication thing, I think, is a large factor. If there's anything that needs to be cleaned up immediately, I would say that counts as something that needs to be cleaned up immediately. Hour number 2 coming up right after this.
Hey, it's Jen for Carolina Stone Craftsman, just outside Columbia in Chapin. When we were updating a couple bathrooms, needed a cabinet, got some cabinetry, needed countertops, and we're recommended to go to Carolina Stone Craftsman because they understand that any kitchen or bath project, it really can be a significant investment, and that's why they make it a priority to deliver the most affordable granite, marble, and quartz while still delivering the highest quality countertops and that is service that you expect. We couldn't have been more pleased. We were thrilled with how the process went from visiting their showroom, which is fabulous, to the home installation, the cleanup process. Everything was very smooth. If you are in the market for countertops for your kitchen or bath, I really do encourage you, reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman. Pop up there. Tell them Jen Jensen sent you. Family owned and operated. Carolina Stone Craftsman. They're just beyond Columbia in Chapin and beyond your expectations. You can also visit them online to learn more. CarolinaStoneCraftsman.com. We do have an incident to let you know about. Assembly at Elmwood Avenue. There's actually an overturned vehicle, and apparently the vehicle is on fire. So just try to avoid that intersection. They're saying to basically stay left if you're on Elmwood heading towards the interstate. But all in all, just try to avoid assembly at Elmwood Avenue right now until they can get some of that cleared up. And forecast-wise, now that's actually looking pretty nice. We are expecting a little bit of breezy conditions yet again today, looking for a high of about 82. And then we're looking for 85 tomorrow and Friday. And mostly sunny on Saturday. Game day looking for a high of 84.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And we're about to take a look at a new trend in college football. Maybe not a new thing happening, not a new phenomenon happening in college football, but something that is becoming a trend because Pablo Picasso once said that good artists borrow, great artists steal.
Still like an artist.
And
There's actually a book with that title.
ooh, I love that. I love that. And you know what? In football, it's no different. It's no different at all in football. And the perfect example right now that we have is what I have now dubbed the Travis Hunter effect. Travis Hunter just won the Heisman, playing both wide receiver and cornerback, and I think his ability to do both at a high level was the reason he won the Heisman. So where's the effect come from, right? Well, the effect comes from other schools within their own conference saying, look, we have a really good corner. He might be one of our best playmakers. Now, Preston's beloved Utah Utes have taken a page out of that book. Smith Snowden, their cornerback, rushed for a touchdown in that opening game against UCLA, where they absolutely took the Bruins to the woodshed. The team that's coming in here on Saturday night, Vanderbilt, they've been doing the same thing with Martell Height, was a defensive back, an all-SEC return specialist last year, and they're deploying him a little at wide receiver to pair with someone like Junior Sherrill, who is a wide receiver by training, and now they give them another option at wide receiver and only adds to the threat that they have. Minnesota's doing it with Coy Parrish, who was an all Big Ten defensive back and kick and punt returner last year for the Gophers. They're putting him on offense. You're starting to see a little bit of a trend of players or of teams taking an incredibly talented player on special teams or on defense, or in this case, both, and saying we can maybe use them on offense. Find a way to give your best athletes the football. Well, if you've watched this football team the last 2 weeks, I think you know where I'm going with this. Vakari Swain has returned 3 punts for a touchdown in the first 2 games. And not just the first 2 games, the first 6 quarters of the season. I'm here to pose the question now. Is it time that they find space for Vakari Swain on offense if you continue to struggle on that side of the ball?
I think this is a very interesting question because this would lead me into the idea of what does the depth in the receiver room really look like? I know we had a bunch of guys. I know we had a bunch of forecasted guys that can play. But what does it look like actually today? And do any of those guys give you a better opportunity than putting this guy who we know is already electric with the ball in his hands? Do you try and move this guy? And this is where another issue comes in, the depth on the defensive backs. Because if everybody's healthy, then maybe Vakari doesn't have to play as much defense. And now he can go both ways, and he can play spot play on both sides of the ball. But right now, it looks as if Vakari is going to be starting at DB because of the injury with Brandon Cisse. Am I correct on that?
If Brandon Cisse does not play, more than likely.
We'll find out today. It's trending in the right direction. We'll find out.
We were told that they're trending in the right direction there, and hopefully, if they are trending in the right direction, then maybe you have the flexibility to do something like this.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. And it doesn't have to be a thing where they play both sides all game, but there could be spots. Could be even a thing where all you have to do is trot Vakari onto the field. They notice him. And he can run a dummy route. He can be a disguise. He can do all types of stuff because if he's on the field, they're going to notice that he's there, and there's going to have to be some adjustments being made. I'm all for it. And, again, this leads into creativity. We're trying to make some things happen. We have an offense that I said yesterday seems pretty constipated right now. Let's move some things along. Let's try and do something to make something happen with the offense. If you see the trend going, I would love to see this continue on our side.
So you're saying Vakari Swain can be the offensive laxative?
There you go.
Could be. And here's something that I thought of yesterday, because when I put this, on our super secret show sheet, state secrets here, I was thinking about, okay, well, if you're going to recommend that they play Vakari Swain on offense, you should probably have a framework of an idea of how they do it. And I do think decoying it a little bit would be something that just makes the defense have to account for somebody else, right? Let's just say you run Vakari Swain in an orbit motion.
There you go.
Where he's running around the quarterback.
Yep.
And you can just play action to him. I mean, the linebackers are going to have to watch him. And if the play's going somewhere else, if you make them have to divert their attention for 3 or 4 seconds on one player, they can be out of position. Even if by 2 or 3 steps, that could open up a slant behind said linebacker, right? Or it can get a safety to cheat down because, oh, why is this guy in the game if not going to give him the ball? Oh, he's going into motion. Oh, he's behind the quarterback. He's orbiting. I should probably take a step down or two. And that might open up something over the top. I think the more ways that you can really divert the attention of a defense or a defensive coordinator can maybe throw them off a game plan a little bit. And this might not have been something they thought about before the season started, or maybe it was. Maybe they saw him do stuff like this in practice and said, this might be something we could break out later in the season. But there's a reason other teams are following that model. And not saying that some of the players that I talked about from Utah, Vanderbilt, Minnesota, that none of those guys are Travis Hunter, right? So that's why it will never work to the same degree that Travis Hunter works, because Travis Hunter is going to do a little bit of that in the NFL and already has been doing a little bit of that after one game. But if you have dynamic playmakers, it can at least give your offense another element that teams don't normally prepare for. And that can give you an edge. And in college football, so much of this game is finding an edge.
Yeah, every high school coach in the country is nodding their head saying, yes, use the guy.
Use him.
If he plays defense, use him there. If he plays offense, use him there. Does he need to run the ball? Whatever. Yes, this is the thing. And again, you pick your spots, obviously, but there's nothing wrong with having a package or having some things that are designed to get your offense going and creating opportunities.
And keeping them on their toes. 803-404-6100. That's the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. We have Will on the line right now. Will, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning. How are y'all doing?
Yeah, fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I just kind of like the comment on the two-way player deal that y'all were talking about. You know, I strongly feel like this offense should be more creative with the play calls that we are running. You know, I know that, you know, you can't base everything off of, you know, say college football 26 or something like that. I totally get that. But here's my thing. You got Nick Harbor, one of the fastest guys in college football. If he's not running a slant route or a deep route every play or coming across the middle somewhere trying to, you know, find a soft spot in the zone, and, you know, Mazeo Bennett is electric with the ball in his hands. You know, I feel like that we keep running Faison right up the middle into a wall of players, and I feel like that with Lenore Sellers, with his speed to get to the outside, with Faison having the speed, you know, why aren't we running more of an offense that's catered to our players' skill set? You know, if you look at other colleges and other teams around college football, you know, look at what Florida State did with Alabama, how much outside run they did, how much stuff with the quarterback they did. I mean, Alabama didn't know where the ball was going. You know what I mean? And I just feel like, you know, with having Nick Harbor, who's very fast and electric, Mazeo Bennett can catch. We've seen it. You know, Bakari Swain can do special things with the ball in his hands. And then you got Lenore Sellers, who can run, throw the ball, you know. So, and, I mean, Faison's not slow, you know, but why not run some plays where you got, hell, two quarterbacks on the field? You know what I mean? Get creative. You know, there's too many playmakers on our team to where we have to run an offense that it's here. We're going to run it up the middle twice, and then we're going to throw a play action pass, or we're going to throw a slant or a screen pass. I mean, I just feel like that our offensive coordinator is not getting creative enough and not dissecting what the defense is doing fast enough to make adjustments, because I'm not seeing it. And if our O-line can only give Sellers a couple of seconds to throw the ball, then we need to change up what our offense is doing, because obviously it's not working, and we need to run something where the offensive line doesn't have to block that long. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
appreciate your call, Will. Yeah.
Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things there. I definitely agree. I think you need more Mazeo. I think you need to find ways to get Mazeo the ball, because Mazeo is a really good playmaker, a really good route runner. I will say the way they have used Nick Harbor, I think it's been adequate. He did run a reverse on Saturday that picked up 12 yards. And that was one of your more explosive plays. I think you'll probably see more of that. I think Mike Shula tried to get creative at certain points in the game. They did run an option play with Lenoris and Jared Brown, and Jared Brown just couldn't catch the pitch for some reason. I saw nothing wrong with the pitch. I kind of liked the play, and I thought you probably could have picked something up, but you can't pick up any yards if you have to go chase the ball because you couldn't catch it. There was some creativity. I don't think it was completely as vanilla as maybe some of us remember the game, because when I went back and watched it, I was like, oh, I forgot about the option play. Oh, I forgot about the Nick Harbor reverse. But at the same time, I don't think you shouldn't have to get that creative against South Carolina State. I think that's kind of my whole point, is you shouldn't have to get that creative against an FCS opponent to be able to move the ball up and down the field. I'll reserve my judgment for play calling creativity starting Saturday.
I agree.
Because now you're getting in the SEC slate. You don't want to put too much on tape. I think if we still have some of the same offensive issues 2 or 3 weeks into this, then a serious conversation should probably be had about how you're calling plays, how you're operating. And one thing about Will's call that I 100% agree with, first and second down runs up the middle, if it's not happening and you can recognize immediately that your offensive line is having a bad day up front and you're not getting a ton of push, I am a big fan of using the screen game and in the short, quick action passing game as a substitution for running.
Okay, that was a lot to take from them. My first thought is this. I think for me personally, the way I'm looking at this is Mike Shula, if you're looking for a wide berth of creativity from Mike Shula, that's probably not going to happen, because that's just not what his resume has been. And I think about this as far as if you go into a old school steakhouse, right? You know what you're going for. You're going to get the steak and you're going to get the sides, and it's going to be pretty straightforward down the line. What makes it good is that they just do it really well.
They execute.
Yeah, you're not going in there for some like crazy fusion dish where they mix, all types of ingredients from different places. That's not what you do there. So I think of Mike Shula as a play caller, steakhouse. If he does it well, it can be very enjoyable.
Yes.
But I wouldn't go in there looking for all types of creativity. That's just not what he has been. The last part about that, we still have to figure out what our identity is as an offense. Because if our identity is we're going to run the ball until they stop us, then yeah, maybe you do run the ball into the line of scrimmage in hopes of wearing them down, fatiguing them for a power run game. But we haven't figured out if that's, at least we have not as the fans, we haven't seen what the identity is. So I've been on record as saying I'm reserving all judgment until after this game, then we can make some more judgments. But you're right. We will find out more information about Mike Shula and his play calling after this first SEC game.
And I think one thing to look for, too, is just how successful are you in the run game? And then if it's not successful, then what's your counterpunch, right? What's your adjustment to the offense at that point? And that's how I'm really going to judge it, too, because I'm with you. I don't think he's not Lance Leipold, right, where you're going to send a 2-quarterback system thing out there or something that you've just never seen before. But what a Mike Shula offense looks really good is the 2015 Panthers, where you have a quarterback that's like Cam Newton, but you put pieces in place to highlight what Cam Newton did well and highlight what your personnel is, which is Greg Olsen, and you executed a game plan, right? You put the power in your players' hands, game plan executes. That's when it works at its best. And you've seen precedent with that with him. But I think how you adjust throughout the game is how I will probably end up judging him as the season goes along, in terms of just breaking down whether or not play calling an offense is good enough for you to win at the level that you expect to this year, and if you want to be able to reach your goals. Casey Henry shed a lot of light on the offensive line's issues yesterday at the player press conference. We'll start the early game morning meeting with a little bit of a demonstration from Casey Henry coming up next.
Football season is here. It's week 2, going on to week 3. Why haven't you gotten your outdoor setup ready with the folks from Integrated Media? Listen, we've been trying to tell you all along. Well, now the fall is here. The weather is turning. A beautiful time to spend outdoors watching all the football you can handle. You can get Samsung Terrace TVs that are waterproof, Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music, Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors, so you can have all your devices running at the same time. Quad boxing on this, iPad on this, laptop here. You can have all of that playing all the football that you want, and the folks from Integrated Media can help you get that set up. From home theater setup to adjusting your thermostat or monitoring your security systems from your cell phone, Integrated Media is the company that you need to call. So call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or reach them online at integratedmediainc.com.
Assembly at Elmwood still working on that incident. There's a vehicle that overturned and is on fire. So do your best to avoid that area if you can right now. That's Assembly Street at Elmwood Avenue. Partly cloudy today, 82 will be our high, 85 tomorrow and Friday. Come game day, we're looking for sunny conditions and a high of 84. So pretty nice forecast on the way. Still a little bit cooler this morning, especially because there's a bit of a breeze. It's 59 on 107.5 The Game.
All right. Our meeting this morning going to feature a lot of show and tell from longtime Gamecock friend Case and Henry. So without further ado, Jen Jensen, let's kick this thing off.
Good morning. Good morning. Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day.
Yes, it will.
Let's go.
Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
As it always is. And Preston Thorne, you like offensive line play, right?
I guess.
You like talking about biggins?
I do. I do like talking about biggins. Not sure how much I love offensive line men or offensive line play, but we'll do it.
Well, because you spent a good chunk of your life in your early years having to
They cheat.
go hand-to-hand combat
They hold.
with offensive linemen.
They lie. They steal. They do it all.
They'll rat you out when
That's
you
right.
jump off sides.
Correct.
But that's a big part of what this offense needs to be able to move forward, to be able to maximize its potential, to be what we thought it could be going into the season. And the starting point of all of that is communication. And Case and Henry, to his credit, shed a lot of insight yesterday in terms of player press conferences and really going into depth about what is kind of going on the field. Case and Henry gave you a lot yesterday, and we want to play that for you today, starting with Cut 19, talking about his perspective of maybe some of the communication issues that the offensive line has been facing these first 2 weeks.
I think that, to be an effective offensive line, you have to play 5 as one. Any level of football, that's true. I think communication is probably our biggest thing right now. From Lenoris to Boaz and Boaz out. There were like 6 or 7 times that I saw in the game where we weren't really getting the calls, you know what I mean? And it was like, I would have to ask, it's loud, you know what I mean? Like sometimes the band's really loud and all this stuff. You can't really hear that much, but we really need to be on the same page, especially at home when we're not in a away atmosphere. But I think that today, especially, we worked on communication a lot. Lonnie's got a great game plan coming together to let us play downhill and not have to think as much. I think we're going to do really well on Saturday with communication and everything else.
So that's some of the communication problems that they've had so far this season, or at least it's what they had on Saturday night. And then after that, I think it was Jordan Kay from the State asked, what's kind of your role in this, right? How do you relay that information while you're out on the field? And this is Cut 20. He responded to that on his role in communication.
Basically, I just walk up to Lenoris. I'm like, what's the play? You know what I mean? Like, I kind of just because, you have to get the play. You know what I mean? Because there's you can't just go out there and just do your own thing. That's not how college ball works or any level. But there's been some times, especially last year, where we're in, Bryant-Denny Stadium and I can't hear anything. Or we're in Clemson and I can't hear anything. I can barely hear the snap count. So we're getting a play and Lenoir's trying to go fast. He's saying it fast. I'm like, I don't think I heard that right. So I got to stop. Be like, hey, stop. What's the play? Ask Tro next to me. Tro's reliable. Boaz is reliable. Guys like that. So, especially last year with Torselli and Vershawn, all those guys, we were on the same page frequently. But, yeah, just stop, calm down, get the play, and then roll.
Now, Preston, you've played this great game for a long time. You had teammates that were offensive linemen. You've played against offensive lines that were really good and communicated really effectively. How vital is it in order just to get the operation going that if you don't master that part, then it really doesn't matter what play calls you have or what your perimeter playmakers are or who is at running back. Communication issues can really stall out an offense.
Absolutely, because we're not sure. When you're not sure, you play a little bit with a little bit of hesitancy, and you don't have time to hesitate when you're playing in the SEC in the trenches. You need to know what you're doing, get your assignment, and then play fast. Fast and physical, you always hear offensive linemen talk about that. Well, you can't play really fast or physical when your brain is trying to compute what the play is. Do I know the play? Do I know the exact play? Do I know exactly what I have? What does he have? What are they doing? All those types of things need to happen. So you have to get that taken care of immediately as you go into any play.
And one thing that I wanted to ask you about, too, from very early in that first cut is getting 5 guys to play as one. It's a fun buzz phrase. It's something when we talk about offensive line or really any sport. I mean, you hear basketball all the time. It's 5 guys playing as one. Offensive line, similar. 5 guys playing as one. And if a tight end's on the line, then it's an additional guy that has to help play as one unit. For those who might not be as familiar with offensive line play, what goes into it, what does that necessarily mean to have 5 individuals play as a unit on the line?
Yeah, it's all about contingencies because it's if-then. If he does A, then we have to do B. If he does B, then we have to do A. Notice and then if they do C, then we have to do D. And he goes on and on and on every single play. And each player's assignment oftentimes is dependent upon first what the defense is doing. And now once we figure out what the defense is doing, now we have to decide what we're going to do. Are we going to double team? Are you going to take them by yourself? How long do I need to stay? Am I going to climb? All these different types of communication things that have to happen within every single play that's going on the field. So communication is a huge part of what offensive line is about. And you hear offensive linemen say that all the time.
Yeah. And now that's just some of the communication before you get to the line of scrimmage.
And we don't have this clip. Maybe we'll pull it for tomorrow, but there was a great clip of the tackle from the Buffalo Bills, Deion Dawkins. He was talking about offensive linemen having their own communication, and he was saying sometimes it's like or whatever it is. You don't need to know what we're saying, but we have to know.
We have to know.
Right.
It can sound like complete gibberish. Doesn't matter what it sounds like to you.
It can be apple, apple, apple. And whatever apple means to us, it means something. And so that communication has to happen. Opening your mouth, using your voice, speaking loudly, speaking clearly. All of those things have to happen within a very short time span.
But then once you get to the line of scrimmage, it's a little different. It could be a little different of a story. And this will be, cut 22 on what happens whenever you get to the line of scrimmage and you have to recognize what's starting to happen.
We our kind of philosophy is called RCE, which is recognize, communicate, and execute. So when we see stunts or anything, we get a stunt cue. We get linebackers, different depths, anything we see like that, like a different technique or anything like that, or even front that might tell us these guys are going to twist or whatever. There's a lot that goes into that, but we're supposed to recognize it, communicate it with the guys, especially if I'm getting like a nickel off the edge. We got to go communicate that to all my other guys. We got to make a call and we got to execute. You know what I mean? So even in within the play, you make a go call if you're getting a T stun or whatever, you're on the man side. There's a bunch of stuff that goes into inner play communication, but the only thing that you can do to practice that is to rep it. You know what I mean? You have to do it in practice. You have to go over and over. You have to mess up. You have to fix it. You know what I mean? It takes a long time. That's why preseason's so long. That's why we practice so hard, is because offensive line is such a hard position to play.
Go outside, nerd. Get out. Go.
That would have sounded like gibberish to some.
Yes.
We're gonna have to have you translate that.
Yes, but I mean, Casey was starting to get deep. He's talking about twist and weak side, one man nubs, all kinds of things of that nature, which may be above or beyond what anybody needs to understand. What you need to see is, one, do they get to the line? When they get to the line, are they looking around? Are they looking at each other? Do you see a lot of side-to-side communication between each other? Because that means they're talking. What you don't want to see a lot of is looking back conversation, because then they're looking for the play. As long as they're talking side-to-side to each other, we're good.
Thumbs up. Look for that on Saturday.
You see them start looking back at Lenoris, that means they don't have to play.
Yeah.
And if you don't have to play, you can't execute, or you're not communicating, you're not executing.
Something else to watch for on Saturday. We love giving out awards and accolades on the show. It's time to get out some Dennis Green awards, because over the weekend in football, some teams proved that they are who we thought they were, and that's next.
Hey, it's Jennifer CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. Got to know them through the disaster that was in our kitchen when it flooded and had to take the entire kitchen down to the studs. It was such a good experience that we decided to utilize them again for some other projects in the house. We decided to replace some cabinetry in a couple of bathrooms. And again, it was a great experience as always. no issues, very helpful, very responsive, and always there on time. They also can help you not just with cabinetry, but if you want to make some updates in your closet, maybe you're like, hey, I'd like some drawers or some different kind of cabinetry in there. Don't want the wire hanging racks. Let's get rid of those. They can help you with that. Get some drawers in your pantry, maybe. And again, as I mentioned, a home office workspace, they can help with that as well. Check them out online, chwcabinetry.com, or call them at 803-520-6837 and tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation. Still tending to the accident. Assembly at Elmwood Avenue. A car had flipped, caught on fire. So try to avoid that intersection while they work to get all of that taken care of. Assembly at Elmwood. And slow traffic, I-26 eastbound between exit 102 and 104. And yeah, that forecast we keep talking about, and it's just pretty nice. This is why we live in South Carolina, FYI. 84 and sunny today, 86 tomorrow, 86 on Friday. And now we're seeing maybe 87 with sunshine for game day. Right now, 61 on the early game.
Yesterday, we put on Garnet goggles. Today, we're going to put on our Arizona Cardinals hat and channel our inner Denny Green and tell you that this player or this team, they are who we thought they were. But we're not going to let them off the hook.
Not going to let them off the hook. This can go both ways. I have some NFL. I have some college.
Same.
Also. So what would you like to do? You want me to go first? What you want to do?
I think you should go first because I think I know exactly where you're going with this.
You sure?
I have a hunch.
All right. Well, let's start with the NFL. Let's start with Nerd Boy.
I knew it. I knew it. Check out line number 1 right here.
Let's start with Nerd Boy, as he was affectionately referred to on TV. Mike McDaniel, you are exactly who we thought you were. You were cool. You had the hip glasses. You wear capris, cool sneakers, and that was fun for a little while. However, this operation has come to a screeching halt. I'm very glad that you were not in my picks of teams that I was going to side with because that was not going to work. But Mike McDaniel, you are who you thought you are. Tua, I'm not sure what's going on with this guy, but I've just seen him sort of start to embrace a very adversarial relationship towards the media. I don't know what's going on there. He's sort of kind of going on like a heel turn deal that's happening.
I find that to be very concerning based off what we knew about him before.
And lo and behold, Tyreek Hill on the bench pouting because he didn't get the ball enough. Exactly who we thought they were. Miami Dolphins, if you was to rewind this back to yesterday, I will officially stamp you as cooked. Go ahead and mark that down. So Miami Dolphins are exactly who I thought they were.
I think going in the season, we all could have assumed that even in a bad AFC South, I think we could have probably figured if we took a poll for all of us, the Colts probably going to finish last.
Yes.
In that division.
And they whopped them 33-8.
And the Dolphins went to Indianapolis, and it was not even close. They made Daniel Jones look like John Elway.
Danny Dimes is back.
It's never been more back. The guy's stock has never been higher now. After just one game, it's amazing what playing the Miami Dolphins will do to you. That an elixir to your quarterback problems might just be playing the Miami Dolphins. Not a position you want to be in. So the Miami Dolphins, you are who you thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go into college, and I want to get a player specifically.
Ooh.
Because this guy was talked about as being one of the 5 or 6 best quarterbacks in college football.
Uh-oh.
This player was talked about as being maybe a first-round pick in the NFL draft.
Okay.
And I'm about to throw you a curveball. Arizona State's quarterback, Sam Leavitt. You are who I thought you were, which is fine, I guess. Without Cam Skattebo, look, Arizona State was awesome because they had one guy that was an absolute playmaker. They were good because they ran the ball really well last year. Sam Leavitt against Mississippi State, which is at the bottom of the barrel in SEC defenses, 10 for 22, 82 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 back-breaking INTs. They go to Starkville. They lose. I've never been that high on the Sam Leavitt train. He's got certain traits, certain measurables, but my God, he was bad on Saturday. Sam Leavitt is who I thought he was.
Okay.
That's not a first-round draft pick.
Okay.
That's not one of the 10 best quarterbacks.
Okay.
In college football, because one of the 10 best quarterbacks in college football would see that secondary and light him up, especially since the best player on that team is Jordan Tyson, the receiver. That guy, I think, is a first-round NFL draft-type talent. He relies on Jordan Tyson a lot because Jordan Tyson had 68 of those 82 receiving yards. Sam Leavitt, without Cam Skattebo in that offense, not a playoff team.
On the flip side, Jeff Lebby, who we thought he was?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's keep a tab on that one.
I'm high on Jeff Lebby.
Let's keep a tab on Mississippi State and Jeff Lebby. All right, I'll stay here. I'm going to give you a sentence, all right? He's a phenomenal quarterback. We've all seen the tape. We know what he can do. But none of that matters if you can't protect them.
Ooh.
I'll repeat this sentence. He's a phenomenal quarterback. We've seen the tape. We know what he can do. But none of that matters if you can't protect him.
This sounds like something we've been talking about a lot this week.
This sounds like something we've been talking about. But here comes the curve, because we're talking about Cade Klubnik and the Clemson Tigers. That's right. You could have said that same sentence about our guy here and about our situation. But Spider-Man meme, We are having very similar conversations between us and our friends in the upstate about having an asset that everybody thinks is really good, but not being able to protect them and figure out ways. They're also trying to figure out why their skilled players can't get to where they are. So a lot of the talk in the Clemson message boards
The
is
circles.
that they've never really been in love with Cade. And I get it because they're still have their eyes on 2 generational quarterbacks that came through 2 quarterbacks.
That bar is really high.
And
what
they've
Deshaun
never
Watson,
really
Trevor
bought
Lawrence
on to
did.
Cade. And so when he starts struggling early, a lot of those folks are kind of saying, like, yeah, he's exactly who we thought he was. He's good, but he's not this guy or that guy. And so that's something to keep an eye on. But I thought that sentence was interesting because it applies directly to us. A phenomenal quarterback. We've seen the tape. We know what he can do. But none of it matters if you can't protect him.
Incredibly applicable. It almost feels like a copy and pasting job right there. So I guess the Clemson offensive line, you are who we thought you were.
We'll see.
Now, this is one of my favorites that I had written down here. Because you can hire the defensive-minded head coach. You can hire the people in the room that specialize in stopping the other team. But you cannot change or run from your destiny. The Baylor Bears, with Sawyer Robertson at quarterback, throwing for almost 500 yards against SMU. Dave Aranda's supposed to be the defensive genius. He's supposed to be the guy that excels in winning the 16-13 game. But at the end of the day, you're still Baylor. You're still the Big 12. Things will get funky. They will get weird. Baylor wins 48-45 in double overtime against SMU. You can't run from your destiny. The Baylor Bears, you are who we thought you were. And that's an offensive scoring machine that has zero interest in stopping anybody else on defense.
Much in the same way how I always contend that Steve Spurrier's favorite season was that 2014 season where we couldn't stop water through a wet tissue paper. We couldn't stop anything, but we would lose games like 45-42. And I contended that he was like, okay.
That was fun.
I don't. Anybody else enjoy this? Dave Aranda hates that win.
Hates it.
He does not. He hates everything about. He'll take it, but he hates everything about that particular win. He does not enjoy that. I have a flip side because this person is exactly who we knew he was, and now they're finding out that he's exactly who we thought he was. 2nd round pick for the Cincinnati Bengals, Demetrius Knight.
Yes.
Leads the team in tackles, 10 tackles, 1 short of the rookie record, 8 solo tackles, 1 pass defended in a defensive struggle win for the Bengals.
Joe Burrow throwing for less than 150 yards
Not who we thought they were.
Against the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah.
What?
So
What?
the rest of the nation is finding out exactly who we thought Demetrius was, and that is a heck of a football player.
Yeah, an incredible defensive football player. So, yeah, congratulations, NFL. You got an introduction to somebody that we already saw firsthand be exactly the linebacker that a team like the Cincinnati Bengals need. So if you had told me they would have won a 1-point game at the beginning of the season where neither team scored more than 20 points, I don't know if I would have believed you.
I wouldn't have taken
unless you led with Demetrius Knight had 10 tackles in that game. That's Preston's take on some of the things from around the world of football, putting on our Dennis Green hats. But I want to ask Preston a few of my takes here. We'll see if he agrees because Preston Arreston is next.
Preston here for our friends at Cato's Power Equipment. Cato's Power Equipment has been family-owned and serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years. And third-generation owner Ben Cato provides top-notch service, great deals, and the mom-and-pop values that you love. Ben is determined to raise the standard of sales, service, and retail. At Cato's, they are proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a seasoned landscaping pro, Cato's has got you covered. So swing by Cato's Power Equipment today or call them at 803-254-3711. That's 803-254-3711.
It's time for Preston Arrest, and where I have a few takes from the world of football, college and NFL here. We'll see what Preston's thoughts are on some of these. Starting with this one, we talked about the game earlier, and they are who we thought they were. But this time I'm going to flip it more towards Mississippi State because I was not very high on Sam Levitt in Arizona State. Still think Arizona State's a good team, but I don't think they're good because of their quarterback. But Preston Areston, Mississippi State, after going 2-10 last year, and they're 2-0 right now, makes a bowl game.
Preston, let's do it. Nice offense, solid scheme. The folks, the cowbells are ringing. They got. It seems like the vibes that we'll talk about the vibe check a little bit later. The vibes of climbing in Stark Vegas
through the roof.
Let's go. Let's go with it.
Through the roof.
And you know
right
what?
Now.
Good for them.
Yeah, good for. They were atrocious.
Yeah,
last year.
They were really poor. And obviously, going through trying to figure out how to replace a legend is nearly impossible. Took a while to get here. Seemed like they're landed on the right guy right now.
Their next two games, home against Alcorn State and Northern Illinois. If they avoid the trip up against a MAC school, because last year they did lose to Toledo at home, you avoid the trip up, you can get to 4-0, meaning you only have to win 2 SEC games to be bowl eligible. Their SEC games, they host Tennessee, they're at Texas A&M, they're at Florida, they host Texas, they're at Arkansas, they played Georgia, they host Georgia, they're at Missouri. Rivalry game. Things can get a little weird there. And they end the season home against Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl. Also a game that can get really weird.
I got 4 of those possibles at least.
I don't see why they can't. They have suddenly become interesting, which is why I didn't rank them last at SEC Media Days. I knew it deep down in here. Now I ranked them 15th, so it's not much further than last, but I didn't have them last, and that's what's most important. Preston Areston, Missouri's offense, it's back. Despite losing Luther Burden, despite losing Brady Cook, Armand Membu, who was a top 10 pick in the NFL draft on the offensive line, because they played Kansas in the border war, and they put up a lot of points.
Preston, need one more game to see it.
Okay.
They came into the season with a quarterback battle. I think maybe Eli got saved a little bit via injury, and so now they have to play the quarterback that's playing right now.
30 for 39 for 334 and 3 touchdowns.
Seems like he should have probably been the quarterback. Maybe.
I think that decision probably shouldn't have required an injury to be able to make.
Feels like he should have been a guy. Resting. Give me one more game.
The one reason the thing that I was the most impressed with, like Bo Perbula's stat line, pretty impressive. They had 2 guys go for over 100 yards. Jamal Roberts specifically was picking up 11 yards a carry on 13 carries. It's 143 yards. That's a lot. Preston Areston, John Mateer will be a Heisman finalist.
Listen, man, this is a tough one.
He's their best runner right now, too. He led the team in rushing yards to 74.
I've been saying it, as I said, budget Johnny Football. He's Donnie Football.
Okay.
He's not Johnny Football. He's Donnie Football, right?
Okay, I like that. He's Johnny Football.
Not quite there. Like again, it's not Dr. Pepper. It's Dr. Thunder. But he's fun to watch. He is a fun player to watch, and he's in that realm of guys where it's like he's wacky. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Saturday night was the full John Mateer experience because there was a couple plays where he danced around the pocket. He ran all over the place and he'd pick up a first down, or he danced around the pocket, run around the place, throw an interception, dance around, run around the place in the pocket, throw a touchdown pass. Like
I say he's very similar to the guy that's coming in this weekend, that's coming into town here. Very similar, except I think Mateer is more skilled and more explosive, actually.
Yes, more skilled, more explosive. And a funkier throwing motion. Yeah. He's definitely one of the guys. Wacky. You could tell. The guy watched a lot of Matt Stafford growing up because he's throwing a lot of sidearm passes, right? Like he sidearms almost every single throw. Hour number 3 comes up next. Andrew Allegretta, the radio voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores, will join us to give us our first look at the opponent coming into Williams-Brice on Saturday. That's next.
Hey, this is Jen Jensen. If you're looking for any kind of Flooring. Discover the unparalleled quality and selection at Mill Street Flooring because they're your go-to destination for the finest luxury vinyl plank and flooring in the Midlands. They're the exclusive distributor of Case Luxury Flooring. Wear levels from 12 to 28 mils for durability and style. And whether you're a contractor or a builder or an installer, you can appreciate the factory direct prices and manufacturer's warranties. And the great part is when you select that flooring, you can take it home the same day because they have it in stock. They have samples available for LVP in a wide array of patterns and colors. You can find the perfect flooring instantly. Choose from the standard or the wider planks if you like to fit any space or any budget. No order is too big or too small. Visit millstreetflooring.com or call Joe at 803-424-8547 to arrange your appointment at the Lugoff or West Columbia locations. At Mill Street Flooring, they do say there's never a good reason to spend more than you have to. millstreetflooring.com. Slow traffic on I-20 westbound between exit 76A and 73, so be mindful of that. Also, things kind of slow there, I-26 eastbound between Lake Murray Boulevard and Piney Grove Road. Earlier, we also are still working on an earlier accident, assembly at Elmwood, where the vehicle had flipped and was on fire. So just still, if you can, avoid assembly at Elmwood at this time. Forecast, beautiful. 84 today, 86 tomorrow and Friday, 87 on Saturday. Lots of sunshine each and every day. A little bit breezy this morning at 61 on the early game.
Hour number 3 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And we are getting you set, now that we are at Wednesday of game week, to the first SEC game of the season. And the first opponent rolling into Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday night will be the Doors. No, not Jim Morrison's Doors. The Commodores. No, not Lionel Richie's Commodores. They're the Commodores of Vanderbilt. And on to talk with us about the Vanderbilt Commodores is the voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores. Andrew Allegretta joins us right now. Andrew, good morning. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. This should be a pretty fun game on Saturday night. A good chance to get some SEC play started, and an excuse to get to have you on my show for the first time.
I love it. It's good to be here. It should be fun. Sold out, right?
And, yeah, they announced yesterday. It'll be a sold-out game. So we will get maximum Willie B on Saturday night, which is what we're hoping for. We didn't get it last week because of that 2-hour delay, which was brutal. Yeah, kicking off a game at 9:21, not as optimal, but they still showed out pretty well, to the fans' credit. Andrew, while that game was going on, Vanderbilt was in Blacksburg against Virginia Tech. And fun 2 weeks for you, getting to go to Virginia Tech and Willie B in back-to-back weeks. They're spoiling you over there at Vanderbilt. But an incredible fourth quarter for the Commodores. And I think I saw a stat at one point in the fourth quarter, Vanderbilt was out gaining them, 278 to -4. What happened?
Yeah, we kept talking about the fact, and I kept talking with my color analyst, like, do they have a first down? And we would go back. I don't think they don't have a first down. And the only first down they had for the bulk of the second half was a pass interference penalty on us. We got really physical with them, and we kept running the football, and eventually they just kind of broke, guys. I talked a lot with our coaching staff about the difference between the first half and the second half, and a lot of them all kind of said the same thing, which the first key to a good adjustment is to not panic, to don't chase the emotion of the ball game. So to their credit, they were very focused. They were very sober. Coach's line to me was, the calls are on the sheet. So they were just really sober, and they found the right calls. And the bulk of those calls was to, one, blitz the absolute you-know-what out of Kyron Drones. And they just rattle him. And he was not the same quarterback in the second half. And then the second part is they were very focused and committed on running the football, and they did it with both the running back and the quarterback, and they got physical. And by the time you got to the fourth quarter, Virginia Tech was just tired of getting punched in the mouth, and they gashed him for a 65-yard run by M.K. Young. They got a couple of touchdowns by Cedric Alexander, and they just started to pull away.
And when a lot of the talk of Vanderbilt nationally comes from Diego Pavia, just because from the swagger that he carries. But you mentioned the defense being incredibly physical. What makes them so good? Clark Lea's got that defensive background, but what makes them so good despite them not really being, I guess, the headline of this team?
I'll tell you what, I think we're still figuring it out, because one of the things that Clark had to do a lot of last year was play two high safeties and try to keep everything in front of Vanderbilt, and that was a good strategy. I mean, it's part of the time management strategy. It's about making them go the long, hard way, as coaches will often talk about. But this year's version of the defense, I think, has elevated talents. They have a lot more depth on the defensive line, and they do have some better secondary play so far. It's 2 games. And I think some of that additional talent on the roster, not to say that last year's defense couldn't make plays, because there's a lot of really good returning players from last year. They've just augmented at a few spots that allows this year's defensive coordinator, Steve Gregory, at times, I think, to get more aggressive. There have been more blitzes. Does that mean that Vanderbilt's going to blitz Sellers more? I don't know. But when they needed to get after Drones, they could dial up the pressure, and they could feel good enough about the coverage that they would get from their corners and their safeties to hold up. So that's been really the most notable difference to me from last year to this year, is they just have enough new pieces to be a little bit more multiple defensively.
What's the general vibe of Vandy towards South Carolina? Obviously, there's a long streak in play. We know that. What's the general vibe of Vandy towards South Carolina in the past, and maybe is it different this year?
I don't know that it's different. I think it's a deep desire to knock the streak off. I think it's just, look, I hope this comes across the right way. I think with Vanderbilt fans, if we're talking about fans, there's an understanding of what our history has been and the challenges that face you when you go up against a Alabama or a Georgia, and again, this is for fans, there's a little bit of an acceptance, I guess, of that sort of challenge that's in front of you. I think it's a little disorienting. South Carolina has more historical success than Vanderbilt, but you also look up and go, it feels like we should be able to pick off these guys or Missouri or whoever it happens to be once in a while. So I think there's just this disoriented feeling of how come we haven't been able to pick South Carolina off. It's kind of a pit in the stomach, I think, for the fan base. I don't know that that's any different this year. It's like there's this huge desire, like we owe these guys one. That doesn't mean the streak's going to come to an end this weekend, but I know the fans look at the streak and go, of all of the teams, we get having a 30-year streak against Alabama, but we're confused by 16 against South Carolina. That's no disrespect to South Carolina. You guys have had an incredible history with Alshon Jeffrey and Clowney and what you guys did when Spurrier was there and all that sort of stuff. That's no disrespect. It's just you understand kind of the weighted differences sometimes in the Southeastern Conference. I know how much Vandy fans want to get this one.
Oh, we get it. We know who we are.
We get it, yeah. Oh, you get it really well.
We get it.
I think that's fascinating to me about this Vanderbilt team too. Over these last 2 years since Diego Pavia joined, like Diego Pavia, maybe one of the most irrationally confident human beings on the planet, and that's what makes him so good, right? And from your experience with him, Andrew, what about Diego Pavia and the way he carries himself has been infectious with this program?
I think you probably said it. It's just the confidence. And, you know, he used the phrase, you have to be a little bit of a psychopath in the Netflix documentary. I don't know if that's the right terminology. I don't know if it's irrational confidence. I also, at times, Elijah, think that he doesn't get the credit that he deserves for being a really good football player. Like, he gets tagged as this super confident dude that overplays his hand. He is loaded with belief, genuine belief that most humans don't have. Like, I don't think he recognizes, for some reason, that doubt factor that kind of wobbles other people's confidence doesn't do that for him. That is true. But I don't know that I've seen a more savvy football player in however many years that I've been working college football. There are so many different plays where I still think back to a play versus Kentucky last year where he took a sack on purpose to keep the clock training rather than throw the football out of bounds. Like when Nico Iamaleava a year ago for Tennessee is running out of bounds with triple zeros on the clock, here's Diego taking a sack in the fourth quarter to keep the clock coming down. And he's really talented, too. Like, he is physical. There's so many times last week where he pitched the ball on the option, in part because it's the right play, but also in part because I think he wants to deliver a block down the field. Like, he's just one of those kind of players that has the skill set, has the IQ, and then has the confidence. It's a really unique combination of all of those things. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but I do think he doesn't get the credit he deserves for being a really good football player and a really skilled football player.
Last one for you here, Andrew. I know you got to get out here really soon. When you've seen this team after 2 games, the 2025 Vanderbilt team, the one concern they might have coming into South Carolina on Saturday would be?
I mean, I think the skill set of South Carolina, that's a pretty good thing to be focused on. I mean, Lenora Sellers is still one of the most dynamic players in college football. You still have, man, I was doing prep. It's amazing. Every time I write down on my chart, like so-and-so was a state champion track and field star in the 100-meter dash. Like, that's a lot of speed out there for you guys. I would probably just say the biggest concern this weekend is certainly the fact that South Carolina is very talented. If there is something about Vanderbilt that has been a red flag in the first couple of weeks, they're going to have to clean up penalties. There was like 10 penalties, maybe 11 versus Virginia Tech. And I would say the coaching staff feels like 5 or 6 of them were pretty genuine. So I don't think they're super concerned, but it was 7 penalties versus Charleston Southern, 10-11 versus Virginia Tech. And you start getting into, you know, SEC play, and that stuff's going to bite you. Like, they dug themselves out of 1st and 20, it feels like, a couple of times. And that's going to get a lot harder to do at Willie B with your defensive fronts and Lenore Sellers waiting to get the football. So those are probably the first two things that come to mind, guys.
All right, Andrew, last weekend you saw Enter Sandman. Obviously, you know we have the Sandstorm. We're going to need your final verdict. We will take it, personal text to Elijah if you can, but that's going to be our big thing that we need you to evaluate at the end of this game. Is Sandstorm better than Enter Sandman?
I will say, in full disclosure, I worked at Virginia Tech for 8 years.
Thank you for that information.
I've got a lot of history with Enter Sandman.
Thank you for that information. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I got a lot of history with that. I love that entrance. For the sake of the people in Blacksburg, I wish there was more behind game days right now, and I feel for them. But they have, I think, to me, Enter Sandman remains the best entrance in college football.
Nice.
But for their sake, because I don't know that I've seen Night Game. Well, I may have seen Night Game Willie B in 21. I can't remember when that kicked off. But, and I have a lot of respect for Willie B. Like, the crowd there is awesome. I think Enter Sandman's the best, but I have history there, so I may not be the best impartial judge.
Okay.
Thank you for recusing yourself. We appreciate it.
Fair enough. I will say, Enter Sandman, even at a neutral site game to open the season, got me ready to run through a wall, and maybe only 25-30% of the crowd was Virginia Tech fans, and it got me excited. Andrew Allegretta, the voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores. Andrew, always appreciate your time, man. Looking forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Should be a really fun night.
Yeah, good stuff, Andrew Allegretta. Yeah, interesting stuff there from the Vanderbilt perspective. And I think the thing that, Preston, that he relayed to me that I was like, oh, okay, that's what, when I go back and rewatch this game, I want to look more for is how they were on defense and maybe some blitzing tendencies.
Checking out, see what they do. He said some really interesting things that I hadn't thought about. I would like to come back and discuss some of those things.
Yeah, we'll come back and discuss some of those things, and we'll also get into Seth Emerson's vibe rankings, right? We can rank how teams are on the football field, but what's the vibe like in the SEC? We'll continue the discussion about Vanderbilt, and we'll tap into a little bit of an SEC football vibe check coming up next here on the early game. We're about to discuss Seth Emerson's SEC vibe check. But you know who passes the vibe check and has for nearly 30 years when it comes to roofing and waterproofing? Yeah, you know what I'm about to say. It's Midstate Roofing, because Midstate Roofing's proven history of not just passing the vibe check, but delivering results is your assurance that the professionals will provide the proper advice and the service that's required to make your facility as secure and safe, dry, and running for as long as possible. Look, it doesn't matter if it's high-rise or hospitals, manufacturing to industrial, Midstate Roofing has designed and installed those bonded systems with that protective guarantee that's going to keep that operation dry and running. 803-356-1919. They also want to remind you to protect that roof with a maintenance contract. So go ahead, give them a call today, 803-356-1919, or always online at midstateroofing.com. And remember, if you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Slow traffic, I-20 westbound between I-77 and 277. Also, I-20 East 26 eastbound between Lake Murray Boulevard and Piney Grove Road. Slow moving there as well. The earlier accident, Elmwood at Assembly, that has gotten cleared, so traffic should be getting a little bit better in that part of downtown. Sunny and 84 today, 86 tomorrow and Friday. Lots of sunshine for Saturday. 87 for the game day high. Right now, 61 on the early game.
Before we dive into Seth Emerson's SEC Vibe Check, we have a couple of interesting takeaways from our pal Andrew Allegretta, the voice of the Commodores. And I think the first thing is what we kind of came to the conclusion off air that Clark Lee has created this Vanderbilt team perfectly in his image.
He's built the team that he wants to coach. Defense first, very sober-minded. I think that's what Andrew said. The call is the call. Not a lot of emotion. So they have all the flash going on with Pavia, but that's not really what the heart of the team is. The second part he said was against Virginia Tech, they just kept running the ball until they broke.
Yeah.
And the thing that's fearful for South Carolina is that if you combine a team with a will to run the ball with an offense that can't stay on the field, your defense will eventually break because they'll be playing too many plays. And so it's going to be very important for them to have success early, convert on third down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which all comes back to run the ball on both sides. Football is, we can get as fancy as we want to get, but oftentimes it still boils down to run the ball.
Or being successful on first and second down. You're going to be situated with a lot of third downs on Saturday. What killed Virginia Tech? 3 and outs. You heard Andrew right there talking to the color analyst saying, has Virginia Tech gotten a first down?
Mm-hmm.
And what Vanderbilt does, maybe better than most teams in college football, is manipulate possessions. You go back and watch the Vanderbilt-Alabama game last year. They beat Alabama when Alabama was fresh off of a win against Georgia, right? In a game where we thought,
huge win.
Where the nation thought, Nick Saban, who?
Biggest play of the year, the catch, the spin, the touchdown.
Yeah, that was Jalen Milrow won the Sepp Theismann that night, right? Well, they go into Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt holds the ball for 40 minutes. They manipulated the clock and bent it to their will. They take away your margin for error. In a game where the margins were really thin, you want to talk about game of inches? That was a game of minutes and seconds and possessions. And Alabama, who was almost flawless in that game offensively, lost by a possession and had 1 pick six that ultimately changed the course of the game. But Vanderbilt had the ball for so long, and they kept extending so many drives, made enough plays to where Alabama had to be exactly perfect on offense to beat them. It wasn't like Alabama was punting all over the place. They might have punted once in the game, right? Like Alabama was finishing drives. But the pick six was a killer, and a turnover was a killer. And whenever you limit the amount of possessions, naturally, this is just a law of math, you have less room to mess up. And what Vanderbilt did was completely eliminate Alabama's margin for error. When they made that one mistake, you look back at the end of the game, you look at the score, you do the math, and you say, that pick six was the difference in this game.
Yeah, and I want to make sure we're very clear here. You can look at the Vanderbilt game against Virginia Tech and look at the final score.
Yes.
But going into the fourth quarter, it was a 2-point game. Am I correct?
Correct.
You know who else's game was a 2 to 3 point game going into the fourth quarter against Virginia Tech?
South Carolina.
Yes. And we broke them the same way Vanderbilt broke them. So I know it feels like this, oh, man, watch out, look what they did to Virginia Tech. We did the same thing. It looked different. It was a punt return. It was a deep bomb that was caused by the run game. So we broke them too.
And it was Lenoris getting a first down at the very end of the game to make sure that they don't get the ball back to even get to try to engineer a drive late in the game.
So very similar outcomes against a team. So we have a test case, which leads me to believe that this is going to be a slobber knocker on Saturday.
Yeah, this is one of those two where I have a feeling that if either one of these teams go down multiple scores, you get in panic mode just because, what I alluded to with Vanderbilt, with their ability to have an absolute stranglehold on the possession total in every game. You're talking about who plays the middle eight really well. This Vanderbilt plays the middle eight really well. They're really good at managing who gets the ball in the second half and making sure it plays into their advantage. So if South Carolina goes down a couple scores early, it'll feel like a steeper of a climb than what the total will be. And on the inverse is correct too, right? If South Carolina goes up a couple scores, I feel good about their chance of holding on to it because Vanderbilt, at least last year, methodically moved the ball up and down the field and, again, hoarded the football in terms of time of possession. That was what their MO was, right?
They just don't have enough juice for as far as explosives are concerned.
Yeah, which is exactly what happened last year when South Carolina and Vanderbilt played, right? Carolina got up a couple scores in the second half, and they just didn't have enough juice to get themselves back into the game by having to score faster. Now, that's the one thing that Shane Beamer, and we'll play the clip later on, where he goes into a little more detail, right? But the SparkNotes version of it is they're more explosive this year. So in Shane's mind, when he turns on the tape, he sees them as a team that maybe can erase a deficit, unlike they did last year. And if that's the case, and they are more explosive than they are last year, then they're a different football team. But I think we are in line for a really fun football game. I honestly, go at full disclosure, still expect South Carolina to win. I think the home field advantage thing is going to be very real. I think the motivating factor of Diego Pavia being very public about wanting to win this game and snap that streak is very real. But at the end of the day, I still think, top to bottom of the roster, you're a better football team.
So Vandy's unranked right now. Obviously, we're ranked number 11, right? That's in the AP poll, which
not necessarily been a fun topic of discussion on the World Wide Web in the last,
not a great discourse around
24 hours.
Not a great discourse. I don't like it. But anyway, that's in those rankings. But in Seth Emerson's Vibe rankings, they're right ahead of us.
They are.
They're 7th and we're 8th on the Vibe. And you know what?
Style points matter.
This is actually my favorite rankings. What's the vibe going into this game? And if you would have taken this poll after week 1, we were sky high.
Last week, Seth had him at number 2 in the Vibe
number
rankings.
2. We've dropped to number 8 because we had a disappointing performance on this past weekend. Vandy had a great performance. So in the vibes of the SEC, we're still right there looking at each other.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like it's completely doom and gloom, according to Seth Emerson, because you're in the middle of the pack in the SEC. On Vibe rankings, that's what's going to happen when you do kind of underperform in a game against an FCS team. I found it very interesting, though. Number 1, Oklahoma, with their 24-13 win over Michigan.
Telling you, man, you get a fun quarterback. He's over there zipping around, doing cool stuff.
They could care less that the running backs can't run the ball. Couldn't care less.
You're winning again. Brandon's calling his defenses. I can see why the vibes are high in Norman. That makes sense.
Where do we land if we win this week?
The vibes will be sky high.
Yeah.
We're rolling.
I feel that.
Yeah, that's why it feels like it's a little bit of tense trepidation a little bit for us, because if we get over this hump, sky's the limit.
Well, then you get proof of concept in an SEC game. I think so much of the focus has kind of been, hey, what the hell happened with your offense on Saturday in the first half, right? So much of that focus is there. To where if you win this game on Saturday and your offense does what it is required of it to win, you're going to feel like you can apply that principle to Missouri and apply that to Kentucky. I think with a lot of the fan base, too, if you get to LSU undefeated and you have a top 10 matchup in Baton Rouge and you just give yourself the chance to pull that one off, then I think that very same enthusiasm that we had about this team coming into the season is revived in a really big way.
Yeah, I agree.
I still think we are going to see something different this week. I just think we've had cards close to the vest. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, again, I said it yesterday, and I firmly believe it. How many successful seasons of a college football team has been defined by how you played in an FCS game if you didn't win, or if you won?
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Not many. In my experience, I genuinely sat back and thought about it, of how many teams that I thought were really good college football teams did I care about what they did in the grand scheme of things against an FCS opponent. That number's 0. Now, if you end up 5-7, we'll look at that as a bad omen or a harbinger of things to come.
I think it was the first game at home. I think that's where the disappointment level came in.
Yeah, yes.
We're so excited. We're back to Williams-Brice, and we just sort of laid an egg. Yeah.
And you waited for 2 hours
on top
in
of
the rain.
Yeah.
Yes, the game started at 9:21. I know I was getting a little antsy just for the game to start because I've been there for what felt like all day.
Yeah, you just wanted cheesecake at that point.
Yes.
That's a whole other discussion.
And for
oh
the
my
popcorn
goodness!
to start being made too.
Yeah.
That was another thing as well that I was just kind of patiently waiting for while we were getting that game to start. But it did allow me to watch Florida to lose to South Florida, and that was
fun.
That was a good football game.
Which, by the way, Florida last in Vibe rankings.
I bet.
This is my shocked voice.
Vibes
Jen
are
and
not
Preston.
high.
This is my shocked voice. You're hearing it right
Yeah,
now.
what's
I'm
the
stunned.
Spurrier vibe right now? Oh.
Yeah, I don't think he watched that game with a smile on his face, I will say. A whole lot of what's happened to my program, what happened to my program. Shane Beamer spoke yesterday, too, evaluating some of the offensive struggles yesterday and talking about how his defense has performed. He evaluated all 3 phases of the game against South Carolina State, as well as previewed Vanderbilt a little bit. We'll hear from Coach Beamer coming up next on the early game.
Slow traffic I-20 eastbound between I-77 and 277. Also, things moving a little bit more slowly. I-26 eastbound between Lake Murray Boulevard and Piney Grove. And, of course, I-20 eastbound between 378 and Broad River Road. And a little bit of slowdown there as well as they're approaching I-26. And as far as your forecast goes, sunny today, tomorrow, really lots of sunshine for the next several days. A little bit of a breeze continues this morning. 84 today, 86 tomorrow and Friday, 87 on game day, 61 right now on 107.5 The Game.
A lot of the focus on the South Carolina team has been rectifying some of the issues that they've had on the offensive side of the ball. So Shane Beamer was asked about that yesterday, asked about his confidence that this offense would improve. And this was his response on the answer.
I think every year's different. When I look at last year, it was the amount of football that Lenoris played. He played against Old Dominion. That was his first start ever. He didn't play the whole game against Kentucky. He didn't play the whole game against LSU. He didn't play it all against Akron. And then the first time he played a game was Ole Miss, and none of us were good enough that day, starting with me. But then we went to Tuscaloosa the next week, and you saw we had an opportunity to win that game at the end, and we just continued to get better. So last year, I think the biggest thing was just his experience as a quarterback and playing some pretty dang good teams early in the season. But it would be too easy, Jordan, to sit there and say, well, last year we say we started off slow. We hung. I think we scored 30-plus points against Kentucky in Game 2, and then we were rolling pretty good offensively against LSU in Game 3. But certainly he got better and got experience as the year went, and confident that our offense will do the same as well. And again, it's early. I mean, the clock is ticking, don't get me wrong, but we're not as far off as people, may think either. And played a lot of new players in Game 1, started a guy that was playing his first college game ever the other night in Game 2. And, it hasn't been perfect. It needs to be better. There's no question about it. But our guys had a really good day today, and we need to just continue to just keep our head down and work and improve. And when it clicks, it's really going to be good.
And alluding to the 2024 season, I find to be an interesting angle because there is proof that the offense can look really bad one week and do what it needs to do in an SEC game the following week. We sat here after the Old Dominion game and had some incredibly similar discussions than I think what we've had this week, right? The vibe check was not passed after that opener last season.
Vibes were very low.
They were very low. Underperformed against a group of 6 opponent that I think we can all agree was not a good group of 6 opponent. Mm-hmm. And the next week, there were some mistakes made, especially when it comes to fumbles, but you were still able to do what you needed to do to beat Kentucky. And the defense helped you out with that a lot, right? I still remember the Nick Emenwari pick 6 and sitting in that press box in Lexington, Kentucky saying, oh, they are taking a hammer to them right now. This is happening. And then you see them in that first half of the LSU game really break out in terms of displaying what we would see the rest of the year within the offense. And then, of course, Lenoris gets hurt. It takes him time to reacclimate. You have the nightmare game against Ole Miss, and then the rest of the season happened.
But here's the and I got to put my hand, Coach.
Oh, yes, Preston Thorne.
All right. The LSU game, you're right. They did break out. But what was the source of the breakout? 2 plays specifically on offense. 2 explosives by Lenoris Sellers running the ball, which he hasn't done a lot of here. A designed run in which he housed it for 75, I believe.
75, yeah.
And then Rocket Sanders, the running back, housing another one for plus 50, right? We haven't seen that we have the running back that can do that yet. We haven't seen it yet. And we haven't seen Lenoris running the ball designed in those designed ways yet. So I'm cool with all of this. As again, I'm waiting until game 3 to make any types of reserves, any type of judgment. But just realize that LSU game that you pointed at, those are the two things that spurred that offensive explosion. Quarterback running the ball, running backs with the ability to make explosive plays happen.
You know what else happened in that LSU game too? First drive of the game. Methodical. Right down the field. Scored. They had the explosives, and they did genuinely move the ball really well in that first half a little bit. And then your quarterback goes down and is gone the entire second half. And now you have to kind of completely readjust your game plan. Yeah, that changed things a lot. But I think I do look at what happened last year and thought, okay, you were able to figure some things out. Maybe it is a running Lenoris more from a design run part, right? Maybe you have to say, okay, we don't want him to get hurt in the South Carolina State game with a lot of design runs. This is a game you have to have. A loss on Saturday will change a lot of what your goals are.
It derails the season. Yeah. For what an expectation, what you said as far as the goals are, it does. Yeah. And there's no other way to state this. I know there's another game coming up. It's huge.
Yeah. I mean,
you have to have this game.
Realistically speaking, if you want to reach the goals that you set in the preseason, which is make history and be the first South Carolina Gamecock team to make the college football playoff, you got to win up until October, right? You got to take care of these games. And I know Missouri looked really good, but you'll still have to take care of that one too.
There's nobody's calendar when you go through and you do wins, losses preseason. Nobody says, well, you know, that Vandy win. I'm not sure, but everybody has Vandy in the win column, not even in the maybe column.
We had it as a win. I've had it as a win.
It has to happen, and there are a lot of reasons as to why it can, and I think it should happen. But obviously, it has to have to do with the offense being able to make some plays and put some points on the board.
And learn some lessons from last week, too. And I think one of those lessons might be what you decide to do on first and second down. Alluded to it in the last segment. Vanderbilt's great at manipulating possession total, right? And how often they hold on to the football. If they are able to at least move, let's just say your defense plays well in a perspective of they bend but don't break, right? You're keeping them out of the end zone, but they're moving the ball enough to be able to milk some time off the clock and at least attempt field goals, right? Kind of what Virginia Tech did at times. Virginia Tech did move the ball on a few possessions to be able to get themselves into field goal range, and as great as South Carolina's defense played by just keeping them out of the end zone, Virginia Tech was able to create some scoring opportunities with their field goal kicker. If that ends up happening and you go 3 and out, it's going to look different than the Virginia Tech game because then Vanderbilt's offense is at least good enough and Diego Pavia is a good enough quarterback to where if your defense is tired, then maybe he can, convert a couple of times once they do get into the plus side of the 50. It's a different game from that standpoint. How you manage first and second down and create third downs that you can get and actually getting them, I think is crucially important for this team.
And that goes back to your hypothesis earlier. Maybe that comes in the form of short passes or plays that they get on the perimeter as opposed if the offensive line is not blocking early.
Yeah, because if that's the case, then you already get a sample size of going 3 and out early in this game. The pucker factor in Williams-Brice is going to reach unknown levels, right? We might be getting the lemon booty text from Langston Moore maybe a little earlier this year than we might have anticipated.
To be honest, even after 16 years in a row, a little tight going into this game. A little tight. It feels different.
This isn't
it's because of them. It's because of us. It's because of everything. This is not the typical Vandy, South Carolina game. It's not.
It feels bigger, which is great for the entertainment value of this game, which I think is maybe the most underrated game on the college football slate going into week 3. The game, hopefully, is a winner for the Gamecocks, but we'll give our winners for today's show and fulfill Mike Singletary's request coming up next. And always a winner on this program is John Ecton and his team at the Ecton Law Firm, because like when you've been helping people alleviate tax issues and that stresses that the pesky IRS maze can put upon you, if you're helping people out, you're a winner. You're a winner to me, because John Ecton and his team for many, many years and their proven local solutions have helped thousands of families and businesses escape the IRS trouble that they've been experiencing. And that's one of the best parts too. It's not just personal income tax issues. It can also be with your business too. They have a wide variety of assistance they can be able to give you and help you get on the path to being closer to living a stress-free life. 803-771-9800. That's the number you can call today to set up that free consultation to where they can get started on looking at your situation and addressing it and attacking it from every angle possible. 803-771-9800 is the number, or always at ectonlawfirm.com. That's ECTONlawfirm.com. I could tell what my winner was going to be early in the show when I saw your face light up when Casey Henry was talking about interplay communication between offensive linemen, specifically right before the snap. So my winner for today's show, the letters R, C, E.
Really cool.
Recognize, communicate, execute. The motto for the offensive line. And all that, and it really is the perfect encapsulation of all that is required of an offensive lineman at this level.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that, man. I'm going to give my winner to Casey Henry. Not only because you have graded out the highest for 2 weeks in a row.
He's been really good.
And you've come a long way from where we were talking about you last year. But, man, you gave a virtuoso performance up on that press box yesterday. You were forthright. You were clear. Awesome job. We had a lot of information stuff we'll probably even bring back tomorrow. But Casey did a great job up there.
Yeah. And, I mean, whenever we're previewing this game for our show the rest of the week and on Saturday for our pregame show, that is going to be Gamecocks Game Day starting at 2:30 live from Jay's Corner at the corner of Rosewood and Bluff Road. Highly recommend checking that place out. It was fantastic. I had a blast there with Tyler doing it on Saturday. Terry and Tyler will be on air for it this weekend. I have a feeling you're going to be hearing that clip on that show, too. I think you're going to be hearing it a lot throughout the rest of the week just because Casey Henry was so transparent about what's been going on with the defense. Casey Henry, absolutely a winner on this program. Also a winner on this show. Because we talked about him a couple times. Mississippi State. Good for them. That's like the ultimate good for them.
Good for you.
Like I felt so bad for that program after Mike Leach's passing and then them trying to figure it out. The vibe of that program has been bad because that's hard to bounce back from.
You cannot bounce back.
That is
replacing a coach, let alone a legend.
Yes.
A unique college football spirit.
Maybe the most unique college football spirit to ever live. But they kind of got back to those roots a little bit in what is a hybrid of the air raid, not necessarily the exact air raid offense, but more of the Art Briles originated style, like an inverted veer type offense. Jeff Lebby's at least given them an identity.
And I'm going to say something. TCU will have my number one ranking of social media teams because the way they treated Belichick was chef's kiss. It was beautiful.
Oh, TCU makes it weird, too.
And
that's something I value. In an online presence of a college or NFL team, if you can make it weird, you have my attention.
Mississippi State, though, last weekend, very solid performance from them. So we're checking out. I'm going to give my winner to the SEC, which they don't normally do, but I'm going to give them to them for last year making teams do injury reports.
Oh, yes.
The injury report is coming out today. So my winner is injury reports that is coming out today because though we appreciate Shane telling us that we're trending in the right direction, it's not enough for me. I want to see the official report starting today going up to game time.
A winner for me today is the idea. Today, one of the winners is an idea. The idea of playing Vakari Swain on offense. The more I think about it, the more I become infatuated with it. And the more that maybe I should ask about that next opportunity I get. Because the Travis Hunter effect, I think, is real. And you've already seen some teams this year benefiting from using a defensive back that also returns punts, being used on offense to good success. Utah is using it, using one of their defensive backs who ran for a touchdown in their opener, the opening season beatdown of UCLA. They've used it. Minnesota's using their defensive back who also returns punts. They're using him on offense a little bit. They took care of an FCS opponent pretty brutally over the weekend. They stopped that game early. You've even seen Vanderbilt use a cornerback that they're also giving some snaps to on offense. There's starting to be some examples around college football of using that model of just finding your best playmaker and just making sure they touch the ball. If we have some offensive struggles, I don't see why you don't mix Vakari in there a little bit.
I agree.
Even if it's a little bit of a decoy. Just put him in an orbit. I just want to see him in an orbit motion once. Just to see what that makes a defense have to do, right? Even if you don't give him the ball, I want to see what it makes a defense have to think about when he's on the field. So that idea I have become infatuated with. That's all for today's show. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri, they're winners. They're winners every day. They're coming up next. It's The Extra Point. And, of course, always a winner outside of just Jack Veltri, who just walked in the studio. But he would tell you this, too. He would tell you Midstate Roofing is a winner. Because anytime you've done something at the best of the best, at the highest level for 30 years, yeah, you're considered a winner. And Midstate Roofing's been that for the roofing and the waterproofing industry. And that proven history is your assurance, is your peace of mind that the professionals at Midstate provide the proper advice, service, and the results to the needs of your specific facility, because it doesn't matter if it's high-rise or hospitals, or if the job is manufacturing to industrial. Midstate Roofing has been proven to be able to adjust to whatever it is to be able to make sure your operation is dry and running long into the future. And that's why we tell you that if you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek, because there's nothing they haven't seen. When you've been doing this long, there's nothing that you can show them that they have not seen before. 803